On the cold floor, Kenji's chest heavy with heartbreak. He looked up at the maid who once seemed so gentle. She smiled sweetly, patting his head as if offering comfort. What once felt like kindness now filled him with nothing but disgust. It happened 3 weeks ago. Kenji Saito, 24, lived alone on the outskirts of Tokyo. After losing his parents in his late teens, he inherited a modest suburban home and a small sum. His day began with long hours at a low-level office job and ended with nights lost in. In reality, Kenji was terribly lonely. He was shy and had always struggled to make friends, much less a girlfriend. Little did he know, one ordinary evening, that wish would begin to come true, though not at all in the way he imagined. One late afternoon, just as the sun was casting orange rays, Kenji heard an unexpected sound that made him jump. A gentle knock on his front door. Kenji cautiously opened the door to find a young woman standing outside. She wore a maid uniform. She bowed politely. "I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Hana. I'm looking for housekeeping work in the neighborhood. Would you be interested in hiring a full-time maid? I can cook, clean, anything you need." The words tumbled out quickly, as if rehearsed many times. Kenji was taken aback. For a moment he wondered if he was dreaming or caught in one of his anime fantasies. I didn't request any services," Kenji managed to reply. He felt his cheeks warm with embarrassment. Why my house?" Hana bit her lip and bowed again apologetically. "I'm sorry. I know it's unusual. I heard from one of the neighbors that a young man lives here alone. I'm trying to find work locally because I need to support my little sister. She's in the hospital," and Hana's voice wavered. "And I'm currently desperate. I can work for a modest pay. Anything helps." She looked up at him with earnest, hopeful eyes. Kenji felt sorry for her. He cleared his throat. What kind of work can you do?" "Anything," Hana answered quickly. "Cleaning, laundry, cooking. I can start with a trial, maybe. Just one day. If you're not satisfied, you don't have to pay me, and I'll leave quietly. For a moment her composure faltered. Kenji felt a swell of empathy. He knew what desperation looked like. Sure," he stammered. I could use some help around here. The place is a bit of a mess." He stepped back and gestured shyly for her to come in. "You can do a trial today, and if it works out, we can talk about a schedule and pay." Hana's eyes lit up in relief. She bowed deeply once more. "Thank you so much. You won't regret it, I promise." As she stepped inside, Kenji hastily moved aside some piles of magazines. "I'm sorry, it's a bit untidy," he mumbled. Hana shook her head with a polite smile. "This is nothing I've not seen before. Please don't worry. May I?" He hovered nearby as Hana began to survey the living room. She quietly bagged the empty ramen cups and stacked the scattered magazines with efficiency. "You can relax, or do whatever you usually do, sir," Hana said kindly, as she noticed him standing awkwardly. "Oh, sure. And please, you can call me Kenji." "Sir feels a bit strange," he replied, trying to smile. Hana gave a tiny nod and a light laugh. "All right, Kenji." By early evening, Hana had transformed his living space. Kenji stood up from the sofa, marveling at the gleaming surfaces. "This is amazing," he said earnestly. Hana smiled in relief. As she prepared to leave for the day, Kenji walked her to the door. "If you're still interested," he began, a little shyly, "I'd like you to come back. Maybe we can set up a regular schedule. I can pay you a fair wage for your work. And if there's ever any emergency with your sister or anything, just let me know. We can adjust." Hana bowed repeatedly, thanking him profusely. Over the next few weeks, Hana became a regular part of Kenji's life. The first time Hana cooked dinner, Kenji was astonished. Hana emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands nervously on a towel. "I hope you don't mind that I made dinner. I noticed you often had instant noodles and thought a fresh meal might be nice," she said, trailing off as if worried she overstepped. Kenji was almost speechless. "Mind? This is incredible. You didn't have to do all this, but thank you." They ate together, and Kenji felt it was his best meal in years. Hana told him she finished high school but couldn't afford college, mostly because of her sister's situation. She mentioned briefly that their parents were gone, so Kenji didn't ask more. Instead, Hana talked warmly about her younger sister Rika, who loved drawing and dreamed of becoming an artist. She just wanted to make sure Rika had that chance. Kenji listened intently, moved by how much Hana cared for Rika. With each visit, their comfort with each other grew. One Wednesday, Hana looked especially exhausted. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. Kenji gently urged her to take a break. They sat in the living room for a few minutes, and Kenji finally mustered the courage to speak. "Hana, if you ever need more help, with money or anything, you can tell me." Hana immediately shook her head, apologetic. "I'm fine, really. You've done more than enough," but Kenji persisted. "I have some savings. My parents left me the house and a bit of insurance money. I've been, honestly just hoarding it because I never had something I wanted to spend on. But if it can help Rika get better, then..." He paused, feeling a little embarrassed by his own boldness. "I'd be happy to loan you some, or even give. Consider it an investment in a young artist's future," he added with a gentle smile. Hana's eyes shimmered. She brushed away the tears. Then, without warning, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Kenji froze. The sudden press of her body, the faint scent of her hair, it made his pulse quicken. "I promised I wouldn't cry," she murmured against his chest. "But you've been so kind. Knowing I can turn to you means more than I can say." In that moment, Kenji felt a protective warmth toward Hana. As days passed by, Occasionally, he caught himself fantasizing that once Rika recovered, maybe Hana would have less burden. Maybe they could spend time together beyond this arrangement. The idea of asking her out for coffee sometime fluttered through his mind. One evening, Kenji returned home to an unfamiliar sight, a pair of small pink slippers neatly placed at the entryway. When he entered, he saw a petite girl with a vase of fresh flowers on the coffee table. She turned, and their eyes met. "Oh, you must be Kenji," the girl said with a cheerful grin. "Hello." She executed a polite bow, nearly tipping over in her enthusiasm. Kenji blinked in surprise, then noticed Hana stepping in from the kitchen. "Welcome home, Kenji," Hana greeted, smiling a bit nervously. I hope you don't mind. I brought someone with me today." The younger girl bounded over to Hana's side, nearly causing the tea to slosh. "I'm Rika. Thank you for taking care of my sister," she chimed, giving Kenji a heartfelt look. "She talks about you all the time, and I just had to come say thank you myself now that I'm out of the hospital." Kenji realized this was Hana's little sister. "It's very nice to meet you, Rika," Kenji replied kindly. Hana set the tray down and bowed her head. "Rika was discharged earlier today. I know I should have asked before bringing her, but there was nowhere else for her to go yet. If it's a problem, I'll take her." Kenji raised his hands gently. "No, it's fine. Just surprised me." He smiled at the sisters, who seemed relieved. They sat down together, sharing tea and cakes Rika had brought as a gift. Rika glanced around the room and smiled. "Your house is so nice, Kenji. It feels like home already. No wonder my sister likes it here." She looked hopefully at Hana. "Maybe we can both live here and help you out." Hana almost choked on her tea, and Kenji felt his cheeks grow hot. "Rika, don't say things like that," Hana said quickly. Kenji scratched his cheek, attempting a light-hearted reply. "Haha, well, I don't know if I could afford 2 helpers," he said, playing along. As dusk fell, Kenji found himself accompanying the sisters to the door. Rika beamed and declared, "I'm going to get strong and help my sister so she doesn't have to work so hard. And we'll visit again, okay, big brother?" The word made his heart ache in a good way. That night, after the sisters left, Kenji felt an overwhelming wave of emotions. His once empty home had been full of life and laughter this evening. Up in his room, Kenji carefully took out a small savings ledger he kept. He began calculating quietly under the lamplight, figuring out how much more he could spare for Hana and Rika. If the sister was out of the hospital, maybe they needed a place to stay, clothes, school fees even. Kenji didn't know that while he planned earnestly how to help, the two sisters walked away hand in hand, smiling secretly with quiet satisfaction. Not long after Rika's introduction, the question of her living arrangements became pressing. Hana brought it up one evening. She spoke softly, careful not to wake her sleeping sister. "Kenji, I've been thinking. Rika can't stay in the cheap hostel for long. It's not safe or comfortable." But, she sighed, "we don't really have anywhere else to go. I was considering maybe taking her back to our relative's place. It wouldn't be good, but at least there's a roof." Kenji felt a pang of alarm. He recalled the vague mentions of an unpleasant family situation. "You both can stay here," he blurted out. Hana looked at him, eyes widening. "Oh no, I couldn't impose," she began, but Kenji pressed on. "I have a spare bedroom. It's simple, but safer than a hostel. You and Rika can stay as long as you need. I'd be happy to have you." Hana bit her lip, clearly torn. "Kenji, you've already done so much. To let us live here without, what would people think?" Kenji managed a little laugh. "Probably that I'm the luckiest guy in town to have 2 kind housemates." Hana's eyes glistened, and she looked down at her sleeping sister. Rika had curled up, hugging a cushion, her face peaceful. Then she turned to Kenji and bowed her head deeply. "If you're truly sure about this, then thank you. I accept. I promise we won't be a burden. I'll take care of everything, and Rika will behave, I swear." Relief and joy spread through Kenji. "It's settled then," he said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the excitement he felt. Life with Hana and Rika started well. At work, his colleagues noticed Kenji smiling more. One afternoon, his neighbor Daiichi teased him. "You keep smiling at your phone. Got a girlfriend?" Kenji almost choked on his coffee. "No, nothing like that," he said quickly, ears turning red. He had been texting Hana to check on Rika, and she sometimes sent her innocent pictures. Those small messages were special to him. Life felt happy, but there were a few odd moments Kenji barely noticed. Once, he came home early and found the house quiet. Assuming Hana and Rika were out, he went upstairs. His bedroom door was slightly open, and when he looked inside, he saw Rika standing by his desk. She jumped, startled to see him. "Rika?" he asked, puzzled. The girl held one of his old photo frames in her hand, a picture of his family from years ago. "I'm sorry," she yelped. "I was just curious. Sister told me I could use your desk to draw since you weren't home, and my room's a bit cramped with our stuff. Then I saw this photo and I got distracted." Kenji smiled to put her at ease. "It's okay. That's my parents. And me, a long time ago." Rika nodded, setting the frame down. They looked really kind. A brief shadow of sadness passed through Kenji at the memory. Rika stepped forward and, to his surprise, gave him a quick, comforting hug. "Thank you for sharing your home with us, big brother," she said quietly. "I think of all of us here as family now, you know." Kenji patted her head gently, touched. "Me too, Rika." Unbeknownst to Kenji, Rika had indeed been rifling through his desk searching for any financial documents, and particularly the personal seal used for signing official papers. She had found it too. Hearing Kenji's unexpected arrival, Rika barely had time to shut the drawer and grab the nearest decoy object, the photo frame. Meanwhile, Hana began helping with house paperwork, like sorting the mail. I'll handle the bills and spam so you don't have to, she joked. Kenji gladly agreed. This gave Hana easy access to his bank papers and important documents. One night, she brought him a small stack of papers. There are a few things requiring your sign, Kenji. A change of address form for me and Rika so we can receive mail here. Would you mind? She offered him a pen and his seal stamp. Relaxing on the couch watching TV, Kenji barely glanced at the papers. He quickly signed and stamped them. All done, he said softly. Hana smiled warmly. Thanks. I'll submit these tomorrow. That evening, the three celebrated Rika's full recovery. At one point, Rika fell asleep against Kenji's shoulder. Hana softly whispered, "Thank you for everything," looking gently into his eyes. In that silent moment, Kenji felt an almost irresistible urge to lean in and kiss Hana. He caught himself and instead merely nodded and whispered back, "I'm happy you're here." Hana gave a small, bittersweet smile in return and then gently guided Rika up to go to bed. Little did he know, today would be his last day of peace. It happened the next afternoon when Kenji came home early. Hana was in the living room, talking on the phone. She hadn't heard him enter. "Yes," Hana said sharply, unlike her usual gentle tone. "The property is in my name now. I'll have the papers ready tomorrow." Kenji stood frozen, heart racing. "Property? Papers?" He listened closely. "Yes, we're looking forward to working together," Hana continued calmly. "Oh, the previous owner? He's leaving soon." Kenji's body turned cold. Could she mean him? At that moment, Rika appeared from the kitchen holding juice. She saw Kenji and put a finger to her lips, silently telling him to keep quiet. Her casual, playful gesture confused him even more. Hana ended the call, still not noticing Kenji. "Rika, did you see where I left?" She stopped suddenly, spotting Kenji. For a brief second, Hana looked startled, even annoyed. Then she quickly changed her expression back to a gentle smile. "Kenji, you're home early. We didn't expect you." Kenji stepped forward slowly. "Hana, what was that call about?" Hana glanced at Rika, then back to Kenji. "Just something about a job," she said lightly. "I've been looking, so we don't rely completely on your kindness." Kenji shook his head. "Number, I heard you say something about the property being in your name. What does that mean?" Rika moved closer to her sister, quietly sipping juice. Hana sighed, dropping her act. Her voice turned cold, unlike the gentle maid Kenji knew. "It means exactly what you think," she said sharply, taking out a paper from a folder. "This house legally belongs to me now." Kenji's hands shook as he read the paper. It was the title deed to his house, showing Hana Tanaka as the owner since last week. This can't be real," Kenji whispered. "I never sold you the house. I didn't even sign." Then he remembered the papers Hana gave him to stamp, saying they were simple forms. Hana smiled coldly, confirming his fears. "Actually, you did sign," quite eagerly. Kenji stared at her, shocked and hurt. "Why would you do this? I trusted you." He turned to Rika. "Rika, you too? Was it all a lie?" Rika shrugged, almost laughing. "Of course. Did you really think someone like you could become our big brother?" She mocked the words playfully. Kenji desperately faced Hana again. "So everything you said, your sister's hospital bills, no family, needing help." Hana's face hardened further. "My parents are fine. Rika was in the hospital, but only after a fight. The rest?" Hana shrugged casually. "Just a good sob story." Kenji felt sick. This cold, uncaring woman was nothing like the Hana he thought he knew. "But why me?" he whispered. Rika answered with a laugh. "You were an easy target, a lonely guy with a house all to himself and no family to interfere, pretty much waving a flag saying, 'Come scam me.'" She twirled a strand of her hair nonchalantly. Hana stepped forward. "Kenji, you need to leave now. As I said, this property is mine. If you go quietly, we can all just move on. Consider it compensation for your kindness." Kenji felt a swell of anger through the heartbreak. "Move on?" he choked out. "You think I can just move on after you stole my home and everything?" Hana's smile faded, replaced by a flat, dangerous look. "Don't be stupid. There's nothing you can do. You signed it over. If you think of causing trouble, well, we have ways to deal with that." Rika picked up her phone, waving it lightly. "We'll just tell the police you tried to hurt me or my sister, maybe both." Her lips formed a cruel smirk. "Who do you think they'll believe? Two helpless young girls? Or a desperate guy who's now homeless? We've even got some evidence." She held up her phone as if showing something on the screen. Kenji caught a glimpse of what looked like text messages. "We texted a few hints to friends about you being inappropriate. Oh, and remember that time Big Sister scraped her arm on the door and you fussed over her? She's got video of the bruise and texts saying she was scared of you. Or that clip where you lean in, trying your best to kiss her, but my sister looks so uncomfortable. People will think you were a creep all along." Rika's voice was practically giddy with malice. Kenji felt the room spin. "Why?" he breathed. "Why are you so cruel? I never hurt you. I never..." His words dissolved into a sob he couldn't contain. Hana looked momentarily annoyed by his tears. "Listen," she said sharply. "Just pack a bag and go. Now we'll give you one chance to avoid more pain. But if you make a fuss..." Kenji interrupted, his anguish igniting into fury. "You won't get away with this," he shouted. "This is fraud. I'll go to the police myself and..." Suddenly, Hana stepped back and let out a shrill scream, stumbling against the couch. Kenji was stunned into silence, unsure what just happened. He had not touched her. He was a few feet away, but Hana collapsed to the floor, her face contorted in fear. "Please stop!" she cried out, as if in pain. Kenji stood frozen, hands in midair from his passionate gesture. Rika rushed to her sister's side, then glared up at Kenji with a convincing look of terror. "What did you do?" she yelled. "Big sister, are you okay?" Kenji's mind reeled. I didn't do anything," he stammered. Hana whimpered, huddled on the floor. "Rika, call the police. He pushed me." She was panting, as if struggling to breathe. It hit Kenji like a lightning bolt. They were staging an assault, right in front of him. "No, I didn't even touch her," he shouted, voice cracking with desperation. He took a step forward to show he meant no harm, but Rika recoiled, pulling a phone from her pocket. "Don't come any closer," Rika shouted, eyes flashing triumph. "I'm calling the cops, you psycho." Kenji panicked. If the police saw Hana crying and Rika accusing him, he'd be trapped. Terrified and heartbroken, he ran out into the rain. As he stumbled away, Rika called after him, pretending to sound worried. "Don't come back, or next time we'll get you arrested." Kenji ran through the rain without direction. Eventually, soaked and exhausted, he stopped at a quiet park nearby. He knew he couldn't stay lost and helpless. He decided to go to the police, believing they'd help once he explained he'd been tricked out of his home. Holding on to that hope, Kenji visited the police station as soon as it opened. The officer listened politely, but Kenji noticed the story sounded unbelievable, even to himself. "Sir," the officer said carefully, "if you signed papers, it's a civil issue. The police can't usually help much. You might need to take this to court." "But I didn't know what I was signing," Kenji said desperately. "They tricked me." The officer frowned. "That's wrong morally, yes, but legally it's complicated. Do you have any proof?" Kenji felt hopeless. He hadn't recorded anything, and his only possible witness was his neighbor, though he didn't know if she'd seen anything useful. "My neighbor saw me run out," he said weakly. "Maybe she heard something?" The officer gave a sympathetic smile. "We can talk to your neighbor, but without clear proof, it's difficult." "Also," he said, checking a file, "we received a call last night from your address. A young woman said you became aggressive but left. They didn't press charges, but they did file a report." Kenji felt cold. The sisters had made sure the police saw him as the attacker. It was a calculated move. He left the station feeling numb. The system was already against him. To fight for his house, he needed money, a lawyer, and time, none of which he had. Kenji wandered without purpose, ending up in a small diner, ordering only tea. Dark thoughts filled his mind. He had nothing left. If he disappeared, would anyone notice? His parents were gone. He had no friends, and now even his home was lost. He quickly shook those thoughts away. No, he wouldn't let them win. Anger sparked inside him. He held on to that feeling tightly. It was better than giving up. He pulled out his phone. Kenji tried social media. He hadn't searched Hana or Rika before, so he typed their names. Several profiles appeared, but none matched clearly. He remembered Rika had stayed in a hospital. If that hospital stay was real, perhaps there was a record of a Rika under her real surname if Tanaka was fake. But he didn't know any other surname. Searching online wasn't helping. Kenji realized the answers might be at the house, among Hana and Rika's things. They probably wouldn't expect him back so soon. They might believe he'd fled far away in shame, and if they were busy selling the house, they'd be distracted. Kenji still had his house key, unnoticed during the earlier chaos. It was risky. If caught, they'd call the police instantly, but he had little left to lose. He checked the time. It was evening. If they had a buyer coming today, they might soon leave. Taking a deep breath, he quietly approached the neighborhood to watch first. As expected, a black car was parked outside. Through the trees, Kenji saw a well-dressed man talking with Hana on the porch, probably the buyer or an agent. The man handed Hana some documents and shook her hand before leaving. Hana smiled politely, then she and Rika went back inside. Kenji waited, hoping they'd soon leave again to finalize paperwork elsewhere. Another hour passed slowly. Finally, Hana and Rika came outside, locked the front door, and took a taxi. Kenji saw his chance. Quickly entering the house, Kenji searched the living room first, finding the crumpled deed paper he'd thrown at Hana earlier. He pocketed it immediately. Next, he went into the sister's bedroom, noticing Hana's perfume, which made him feel a pang of sadness. Focus, he told himself. The room was neat, but he noticed torn papers in the trash. Picking them up, he saw envelopes addressed to different names: Mariko Suzuki, Emiko Tanaka, fake names or past victims. He carefully saved these scraps. Rika's sketchbook lay on the bed. Flipping through, he saw innocent drawings at first, then rough sketches of people: a man in an apron, an older man with glasses. Targets? Near the end, a drawing made Kenji freeze. It showed him sleeping on the couch, with a small spider doodled nearby, like he was caught in a web. He quickly moved on, searching Hana's closet. Among her clothes, he found a small locked box. No time to waste. He forced it open with a nail file. Inside were documents and IDs. Multiple identities for Hana and Rika, insurance papers, and a bank book in Hana's name with a large sum of money. Kenji snapped photos of the IDs and bank book, then quickly stuffed everything into his bag. Suddenly, a noise outside made him freeze. A car door. Kenji peered through the curtain. To his horror, the taxi had returned. Hana and Rika were getting out. Panic surged. Kenji quickly but silently closed the closet and dashed out of the room. He slipped through the kitchen to the back door that led to the yard. He heard the front door open and Hana's voice. "Must have left it in the bedroom," she was saying. Kenji held his breath. He crept along the side of the house, careful not to be seen from the windows. Only when he was several blocks away did he breathe again. That was far too close. But he had done it. He had retrieved some evidence. Back in the small hostel room he'd rented with his remaining money, Kenji spread out all the evidence he'd gathered: the fake IDs, the bankbook, envelope scraps, and Rika's sketchbook. All evening, Kenji tried to connect the clues. One fake ID showed Hana and Rika both using the surname Sugimura. Searching online, he found an article from 2 years earlier. An elderly man named Sugimura had died of a heart attack shortly after 2 young female relatives had stayed with him. The article said the man's house had recently been transferred to these relatives, whose names weren't listed. Kenji felt sick. They must have been Hana and Rika. He kept searching. Another address matched a rural property sold last year, using one of Hana's fake identities. It fit a clear pattern. They entered people's lives, gained trust, and stole valuable assets. Kenji realized he had to act fast. If the sisters sold his house, they'd disappear with the money, becoming impossible to find. They might even leave the country. He quickly formed a plan. First, he wrote an email to the real estate agency handling the sale. Pretending to be a lawyer, he explained the sale was fraudulent, that Hana was using a fake identity, and that he, the true owner, had been tricked. He attached photos of Hana's fake IDs and the signed deed, clearly explaining the deception. He copied the email to the police fraud department to add credibility. Kenji knew this wouldn't stop the sale instantly, but it would cause suspicion. The buyer and agency would at least pause and check with authorities. Next, using a disposable SIM card purchased with one of the sisters' fake IDs, he anonymously called the agent he saw earlier. Disguising his voice, he repeated his warning. The house was being sold illegally and the sellers were under investigation. The agent sounded alarmed and promised to verify everything with the authorities. Kenji hung up, feeling a surge of grim satisfaction. Early the next morning, he got his answer. A flurry of activity began around his house. He observed from a distance as a police car pulled up in front of the gate. 2 officers went in. Kenji's phone, still on the disposable SIM, rang shortly after. He answered cautiously. A cold, familiar voice came on. It was Hana. Kenji, trying to sound calm but clearly angry. "We should talk." Kenji's heart raced. Hana knew he'd disrupted her plan. He replied calmly, "About what?" Hana's fake politeness broke. "Don't play dumb. You've caused quite a mess with your accusations. The police visited us thanks to you. I handled it, but you're making things difficult." Kenji felt a small victory inside. "I warned you that you wouldn't get away with it." She paused, controlling her anger. "What exactly do you want? Some portion of the sale? If you stop this and retract those lies, maybe, just maybe, I can give you something. Then we all move on." The audacity made Kenji grip the phone tighter. Even now, she assumed he could be bought off. "What do I want? My life back, Hana. Since that's impossible, I want justice. Everyone will see who you really are." A low chuckle came through the phone. Unexpectedly, it was Rika's voice, having taken the phone from her sister. "And you think you're some hero now, big brother? Will anyone believe you? We can spin this right back at you. In fact, we already have. Did the police mention the restraining order we're filing?" Kenji clenched his fist. "A restraining order?" Rika continued smugly. "You're already known as a stalker. My sister's performance this morning was perfect, telling the police how scared she was after your aggressive behavior. They completely bought it." She laughed. Kenji felt frustrated. He'd stopped their sale, but they were still controlling the story. "You're only hurting yourself, Kenji," Hana said firmly, taking back the phone. "But maybe we can still fix this. Let's meet face to face and talk calmly. No tricks, in a public place." Kenji hesitated, cautious yet knowing meeting in person could help, if he was careful. "Fine," Kenji answered. "Where?" "Tomorrow at noon," Hana replied softly. "Central Mall, near the fountain." Kenji agreed and ended the call. He knew they'd probably try to trap him or trick him into saying something damaging. He needed a solid plan to stay ahead. Kenji spent the rest of the day preparing carefully. He backed up all the evidence, photos, scans, and notes, by uploading copies to several cloud accounts. He also sent everything again to a journalist's news tip line, noticing a brief reply that showed some interest. If the sisters tried anything, he wanted proof ready. Next, he reached out to Daichi, his co-worker, one of the few people he could trust even marginally. He asked if Daichi could meet him that evening. Thankfully, Daichi obliged. At a quiet restaurant, Kenji explained everything to Daichi. The sisters, their scam. Daichi was shocked. He'd thought Hana and Rika had just moved out. Angry about what happened, Daichi promised to help. He spotted Hana and Rika seated on a bench near the fountain. Kenji took a deep breath and walked toward them. As he did, he noticed Daichi standing casually by a pillar nearby, phone in hand, pretending to play a game, but clearly recording everything. Hana stood as Kenji approached and nodded slightly. "Thanks for coming," she began calmly. "I'll get straight to it. This has gone too far. We're proposing a truce." "A truce?" Kenji repeated. "You mean I stop trying to expose you, and you, what? Give my house back? Admit everything?" Hana's expression hardened. "We can't reverse what's done. The house is ours now, but the sale is delayed. If you drop your accusations and leave us alone, we'll pay you enough money to start fresh. Isn't that what you wanted?" Kenji felt disgusted. They really thought they could buy him with his own money. He saw Rika looking around suspiciously, probably checking if he'd brought help. "A payoff," Kenji said coldly. You think this is just about money? He stared directly at them. You stole my home and tried to ruin my life. Rika rolled her eyes. Save the drama, big brother. You lost. It happens. Move on. People like you always do. Rika, Hana interrupted sharply, silencing her sister. Hana softened her voice, pretending sincerity. Kenji, I'm truly sorry things went this far. You were nice, and I wish we could have ended differently, but what's done is done. Either we stop fighting and both survive, or we keep going and everyone loses. Take our offer. It's your best option. Kenji narrowed his eyes. Is that a threat? Hana shook her head slowly. It's simple reality. The police have our statements against yours. The public record is being shaped as we speak. Who do you think they'll paint as the predator and who as the victims? This could end with you in jail for harassment and us keeping everything. Your attempts to expose us might just end up burying you deeper under accusations. You could lose any sympathy or credibility and still end up with nothing. She let that sink in, then softened her voice. I don't want that for you. It amazed Kenji how convincing she sounded, as if she cared. He glanced at Rika. She was smirking at him, a glint in her eyes that indicated she enjoyed this. In that look, Kenji realized they expected him to refuse the offer. This meeting was partly to gauge his resolve and also to give a last chance before they went for his throat legally. They were confident. Despite the setback, he decided to flip the script. He let out a bitter chuckle. You know, Hana, you almost had me back there. For a moment I thought you sounded genuinely remorseful, but your sister's face betrays the truth. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Neither of you feel any guilt, do you? I was just an easy mark, nothing more. Probably the latest in a line of suckers you've ruined. Did the old man have a heart attack when you stole his house? Or did you help it along? Hana's eyes flashed with alarm and anger. Rika actually stood up. Shut up, Kenji had struck a nerve. Ah, so I'm right, he pressed. I know. What you did in Shizuoka and in Hokkaido, I've been digging. You've left pieces behind, and I've found them. This was a bluff. He only had partial info. Hana's face went pale. For the first time, Kenji saw uncertainty in her. Rika looked to her sister, clearly rattled that Kenji knew about other places. Kenji continued, relentless. Your time is running out. Maybe the police here aren't fully convinced yet, but what about the police in those other prefectures? I'm contacting them too. How long until one of them reopens an unsolved fraud or suspicious death case and comes knocking for you two? Hana's veneer cracked. You, she spluttered, then regained some composure, realizing they were in public. She took Rika's hand to calm the girl. Hana lowered her voice to a harsh whisper. You have no idea who you're dealing with. We're not some petty pickpockets you can scare. We're always a step ahead, Kenji. Always. That email stunt, cute but ultimately traceable to you. Enjoy the defamation suit we'll file. And digging into our past? That's a dangerous road. You don't know what we're capable of. There it was. The threat laid bare. Kenji felt a chill, but he met her gaze. I have nothing left to lose. So go ahead. Unleash whatever legal hell you want. I'll be right there. You might win in the short term, but I'll make sure you spend the rest of your living in fear until I eventually pay back for what you've done to me. Rika sneered, but Kenji noticed her hand in Hana's was trembling slightly. The sisters were silent for a long moment. Finally, Hana spoke, sounding almost tired. I underestimated you. You've changed. Hana studied him, and for a fleeting second, Kenji thought he saw a flicker of regret in her eyes, but then she blinked. She turned to Rika. We're done here. Rika looked like she wanted to spit insults, but Hana squeezed her arm. Hana faced Kenji one more time. So be it. Don't say we didn't offer you a chance. From now on, we won't hold back either. Kenji simply said, I look forward to it. They strode off, melding into the crowd. Kenji exhaled, realizing his heart was hammering. Daiichi approached a minute later, eyes wide. Holy, Kenji, I got it all, man. He lifted his phone. Not sure if it's useful as evidence, but we caught their faces, and he recorded the convo from his hidden microphone. Meanwhile, the sisters wasted no time in making their next move. The very evening after their tense meeting, he received a text message from an unknown number. We agree to your terms. Proof for house reversal. Midnight near your old neighborhood. Come alone with all evidence. No tricks, or the deal is off. Kenji read it twice. It was clearly from Hana and Rika, pretending to concede and offering proof to undo the property transfer, likely as bait. Kenji informed Daiichi and asked him to be on standby nearby, though at a safe distance. Daiichi protested, saying it was too dangerous for Kenji to go at all, but Kenji insisted this needed to end tonight. Daiichi reluctantly agreed to wait in his car a block away, phone ready to call for help if needed. Just before midnight, Kenji arrived at the location, a partially built multi-story parking garage that had been abandoned due to funding issues. A few weak floodlights cast long shadows across piles of gravel and sand. Kenji could make out two figures standing in an open ground floor area, Hana and Rika. He walked forward, deliberately scuffing his feet on gravel to announce his approach. I'm here, he said loudly. Rika stepped forward into the light, a smug look on her face. Right on time, big brother. Kenji noticed she held something in her hand. It glinted. A knife? No, it looked like a small taser device. Hana lingered a few steps behind her, one hand behind, possibly clutching something as well. Kenji kept a safe distance, about 10 meters from them. You said you had proof to undo the transfer. Let's see it, he demanded, trying to sound hopeful. Hana gave a thin smile. Of course. We have a signed confession from me saying the deed transfer was fake and forced. It's even notarized. She nodded to Rika, who pulled a folded paper and waved it. Kenji's mind raced. A confession, not likely real. They must think him very gullible or extremely desperate. More likely it was a blank page or false document to lure him closer. He needed them to make the first aggressive move, ideally on record or with Jero seeing. He cautiously took a few steps closer. "Slide it over to me then," he said, gesturing at the paper. Rika giggled. "Ah, not so fast. We need something from you too, Kenny." It sounded mocking from her lips. "All the evidence, lockbox stuff, IDs, whatever you stole from our room, you give us that and you get this paper. Then, you can walk away and take your precious house back. Fair, right?" Kenji had anticipated this. He had the lockbox contents in a bag slung over his shoulder, but crucially, he had already digitized and copied everything. He shrugged the bag off and set it on the ground in front of him. "All the original documents are in there. I'll even toss my phone over if you want. With the recordings and photos, I have them backed up in an email draft," hoping to make himself seem less threatening. "I just want this to end. Give me the confession, and I'll disappear from your lives." Hana narrowed her eyes, as if trying to detect deception. She nodded slowly. "Kick the bag over to us." Kenji complied, giving the canvas bag a push with his foot. Rika kept her taser pointed vaguely toward Kenji as Hana knelt and unzipped the bag. Hana rifled through, and Kenji saw the flicker of satisfaction on her face as she saw the lockbox papers and IDs inside. She whispered something to Rika that Kenji couldn't hear. Rika nodded, her smile turning predatory. Rika held the paper out as if ready to hand it over, taking a few slow steps toward him. Hana followed, her smile faint but inviting. Just as they drew close, Rika's grin shifted. "Change of plans, big bro." In the same instant, Hana's hand darted into her bag, pulling out a small pepper spray toward Kenji, while Rika lunged with the crackling taser. But Kenji wasn't where they expected. Anticipating treachery, he had kept a careful count of his steps and their positions. As soon as Hana's hand moved, he sidestepped behind a pillar. The pepper spray mist hit the air where he'd been, and Rika's taser swiped and crackled against concrete. Kenji felt a surge of adrenaline. "Is that all you've got?" he shouted. Rika's patience finally ran out. With a scream of rage, she rushed Kenji, jabbing the sparking taser wildly. Kenji hurled the chunk of concrete at her feet, causing her to falter, and quickly dodged aside. Rika stumbled past, nearly losing balance. As Kenji caught his breath, his eyes widened in shock. Hana had pulled something from her jacket, and it gleamed ominously in the dim floodlights. His blood ran cold as she raised it. "A gun. Did you really think you were smarter than us, Kenji?" Hana's voice quivered with barely contained fury. "We gave you a chance, but you had to play hero." Kenji froze, his mind racing for options, but there were none. He hadn't anticipated this. Suddenly, a light sliced through the shadows from behind him. A commanding voice thundered through the tense silence. "Police! Drop your weapon now!" Hana flinched, startled, and her eyes widened in panic. As soon as Hana's gun clattered to the ground, Kenji lunged forward, grabbing his bag of crucial evidence and swiftly seizing the weapon, heart still pounding fiercely. But as the lights approached, illuminating the scene, it quickly became clear there were no police, only Daichi, holding his mobile flashlight and recording. Daichi breathed, clearly shaken, but firm. "I had to act fast. I already called the police. They're on their way." The sisters exchanged panicked glances, realizing they'd been tricked. Daichi tossed Kenji a handful of zip ties he'd brought along. "Tie them up. I'll help watch them until the real cops get here." Kenji quickly bound Hana's wrists behind her back, but as he moved to Rika, she suddenly bolted, sprinting desperately into the darkness. "Daichi, watch Hana!" Kenji shouted, motioning urgently toward Hana as he chased after Rika. He ran through the dim construction site, but after several tense minutes, Kenji returned alone, breathless and frustrated. "She outran me," he admitted reluctantly. Hana, seeing a last chance, turned pleading eyes toward Daichi. "Please," she sobbed convincingly. "You don't understand. Kenji misunderstood everything. We never meant any harm." Daichi shook his head coldly. "Don't waste your breath. I've seen enough to know you're lying." Within moments, sirens echoed nearby, red and blue lights flooding the construction area. Officers quickly surrounded them, taking control of the situation. They handed the officers the video, letting the footage speak for itself. There was no questioning what had truly happened. As they led Hana away, she desperately turned to Kenji, tears streaming down her face. "Kenji," she cried softly, voice breaking. "Remember all the kindness we shared? Everything between us can't have been fake." Kenny sighed. "All those moments I thought were real, were lies. That's all you'll ever be to me now." Hana's shoulders slumped as the police escorted her into the patrol car, leaving Kenji standing beside Daichi, finally free from her manipulation. After providing the police with detailed statements and surrendering the gathered evidence, Kenji returned home, his footsteps heavy and slow. Standing at his doorstep, he hesitated for a long moment before pushing the door open. The familiar creak of hinges echoed in the empty silence, amplifying the unsettling sense of loneliness. Stepping inside, he took a slow, deep breath, inhaling memories that lingered in every corner of the house. Finally reaching his bedroom, Kenji barely glanced at the mess around him, too exhausted physically and emotionally to tidy up. He sank onto his bed, letting out a deep, weary sigh. He stared at the shadowed ceiling, and turned off the lights to sleep. Meanwhile, as midnight enveloped the house in complete darkness, a silent figure carefully emerged from the shadows. Unnoticed and unheard, Rika stepped in the darkness, her face twisted with suppressed rage. She gripped a sharp blade tightly. Her voice was barely audible, shaking with fury as she whispered bitterly to herself, "Did you really think you could ruin us and just sleep peacefully?" Slowly, deliberately, she raised the knife, her shadow stretching ominously over his bed. As she closed in, Rika lunged forward with a fierce scream, driving the knife down with full force toward the blanket-covered form in the bed, aiming precisely at the neck. The blade pierced through, sinking deeply, but a chilling emptiness met her strike. She felt the hollow softness of a pillow beneath. A chilling realization flooded through her. She had been deceived. Before she could react further, the room's lights snapped on, flooding the space with harsh brightness and revealing Kenji standing calmly in the corner. "You never learn, do you?" Kenji's voice was sharp. "Did you seriously think I wouldn't notice you following me tonight?" Rika spun to face him, eyes wide with shock and fury. She wrenched the knife free, pointing it toward him with trembling hands. Her voice shook with uncontrolled rage as she shouted, "You ruined everything! I'll kill you!" Kenji remained composed, unmoving from his spot, his gaze unwavering. "You had a chance to escape, to build a better life far away, but instead, you chased revenge, ruining countless lives, including your own." Blinded by rage, Rika charged again, slashing wildly toward him. Kenji deftly sidestepped her attack, gripping her wrist tightly and twisting sharply until the knife clattered to the floor. Without hesitation, he delivered a firm, stinging slap across her face. The force sent her staggering backward, stunned and momentarily disoriented. "If only your parents had taught you basic decency," Kenji said bitterly, shaking his head with disgust. "But perhaps sharing a cell with your sister suits you best. Evil always finds comfort in familiar company." Rika sank to her knees, eyes burning with humiliation and defeat as distant sirens began to fill the air.